to the Soccer Chaplains United podcast from the Touchline. And now, here's your host, Rev Brad.
Hello, friends. For the month of April, I'd like to read and reflect on a number of the soccer psalms. Similar to doing this in the past, what I'll do is I'll read the biblical psalm first, and then the soccer psalm translation or paraphrase. After, I'll share my reflection from the book and offer up a few questions for your own personal meditation. This week, Psalm 137, Lament of a Corrupt Match. Psalm 137, verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth, if I do not remember you, if I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did. On the day Jerusalem fell, "Tear it down," they said, "tear it down to its foundations." Daughter Babylon, doomed to destruction, happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. Soccer Psalm 137. A lament after a corrupted away match loss. Verse 1. When we played the away match far from home, we sat, stunned. On the pitch, in the stands, we wept. We cried as we remembered home. There in the traveling section, we put away our drums. We silenced our horns. Our song died down. The home side jeered, "Sing us one of your famous songs," they taunted us, calling for us to play a song. Let's hear "Going Home." Sing "Country Roads." Glory, glory, Team United. How about "Never Give Up on You"? How can we sing songs of joy, songs of hope, while in a foreign land, in hostile territory? If I forget home, let me be cursed. Let my dominant foot forget its skill. Let it be crippled to the point of uselessness. Let me become so dehydrated and thirsty that I cannot run, I cannot sing, I cannot talk. Let me shrivel up and die. If I cannot recall the beauty and comfort of home, if I show any disloyal thought or suggest for a moment that home isn't my first joy, don't forget, O Lord, what our bitter rivals have done. On the day we fell at home in our fortress city, tear it down, they said, strip it bare, destroy it all down to its foundations. Arrogance Arena, you're doomed to destruction. Blessed is the club who gets back at you. Blessed is the federation that punishes you for all the harm, devastation that you've caused us. Blessed is the club that steals your academy athletes. Blessed are those who put an end to your corruption and your tainting of the beautiful game. I want to offer this reflection. Psalm 137 is known as an imprecatory psalm, a psalm of cursing. These are songs, poems, words that call down judgment and destruction upon people. It feels uncomfortable, feels awkward. Is this really in the Bible? Are we really able to curse an enemy, to call down hellfire on a foe? There's something that doesn't feel right about this, right? Psalm 137 and the soccer psalm is one of some 21 psalms that feature some type of imprecation. That's nearly 15% of the psalms which make up the Psalter. So it's not something that can simply be ignored. Many different writers and scholars have wrestled with these violent and seemingly counter-Christian ideas. But there are some important things to be said about what we see and what we read in the passages that speak to certain brutalities. First, the writers of the imprecatory psalms are dealing with real, true human emotions. For the parent who has lost a child to drunk driving or a school shooting, the hatred and vitriol are real. For the one who sees injustice in the world and demands action, the pain of evil is felt. These writings affirm that there is a reality to those feelings of hatred and anger and a desire to violently respond. The second important thing to note is that there is a distinction between good and evil. Nowadays, it can be difficult to declare something wrong, evil, or bad. In 1964, Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart described his test for obscenity with this response: "I know it when I see it." While this can serve as an initial litmus test in our cultural day, it seems increasingly difficult to identify evil and wrong or sinful behavior. It's important to understand, too, that the psalmists distance themselves from the violence to be done. We might read Psalm 137 and believe that it's due to the powerlessness of an exiled people. In the soccer psalm, we might imagine a reality where there's nothing which might be legally done toward the offenders. But in each case, the psalm becomes a prayerful appeal to God or to someones who might be an agent of revenge, of justice. Those writing the imprecatory psalms don't try to, quote unquote, take matters into their own hands. Rather, they leave it up to the Lord. They leave it up to the Lord to see justice happen. Perhaps this comes with a wisdom of understanding that when we exact revenge or we act violently, it negatively impacts us. Perhaps it is because we are commanded against acting in this manner. The 10 Commandments, as an example, speak specifically against killing another human being. The plea of the psalmist for God to take action on his or her behalf allows for an exhalation of the toxic vapors of revenge. It places the responsibility into God's hands. It takes the root of bitterness and resentment and releases it. This illuminates a crucial role that these psalms play in our lives, affirming certain attributes of God. Wait, isn't God all-loving? How could a loving God be called on to destroy or dash infants against the rocks? To answer this, we must first understand something about the practices of warfare back in ancient times. This is what Babylon had done to Jerusalem as they conquered them. A modern reader might be horrified with the savage imagery here. I'd venture to say that few of us have experienced personally such a vicious or violent atrocity. The psalmist cries out to God, and there are several attributes being appealed to. A call for justice of God to happen, an appeal for the omniscience, the all-knowingness of God to never forget, a plea for the omnipotent, the all-powerful God to be utilized. But ultimately, all of this is left up to the sovereignty of God. If God wills it to happen, then satisfaction and justification might be felt. But the psalmist knows that it must be God who acts, God who responds, God who brings about justice. Within Psalm 137, the holiness of God is also employed. Here, the author is singing, pleading, begging to not forget about home. Oftentimes when we live in a foreign culture, we tend to become absorbed. We cease to hold our distinctions. We become assimilated in such a way that anything and everything that might stand out as special or different is lost. God is holy. God calls upon his people to also be holy. Leviticus 11, 44 through 45, chapter 19, verse 2, 20, verse 7, 1 Peter 1, 15 through 16. To be holy is to be set apart, to be different. The worldly response to what is being described in Psalm 137 would be to seek out revenge with one's own hands. The godly response is to call upon God to make things right, to bring justice when and where and how he sees fit. This removes the burden of judgment from our own fallible selves. On any given weekend, we might see around the world the effect of rivalries in soccer. We likely know about the cheating and unethical and immoral scandals which plague the beautiful game. Some of them are financially related. Some of them have to do with corruption at the highest levels of soccer's governing bodies. It might be that it was an incorrect call of an official on the field. Whether you're an athlete, a coach, an executive, or simply just a fan, it's likely that some part of evil or wrong has touched or impacted you and the game. We can desire to seek revenge. We can explode and try to take matters into our own hands. We can dwell with an inconsolable bitterness at the injustice we've suffered. Or our response can be different. We can experience release. We can give up our frustration, our hatred, our anger to the Lord. Psalm 137 helps us to do so. Psalm 137 lets us have an outlet, a way to vent, and a way to release these mental, spiritual, and emotional toxins to God. No matter your place in the game of soccer, you and I can let God be the one to exact justice. We can let him defend our cause. We can let him bring to ruin the one or ones who has brought ruin to us. Why carry these things onto the pitch and elsewhere into life? It is a burden too heavy for us to carry on our own. And it is highly unlikely that we would feel any satisfaction, even if we did arrive at a moment where we could take revenge. We must put these things into the hands of God. We must put our heads down and get back to recovering. We must concentrate on the command and the striving to be holy as the Lord is holy. The rest of it will work out as it should and according to God, who is all-knowing, all-powerful, just, holy, sovereign, and yes, loving. I want to offer a few things for you to meditate and think about personally. Consider a moment of devastation. Perhaps it was a lost game to a wrongful call or unjust moment. Perhaps it was being fired from a coaching job, or maybe it was exclusion from a competition or league due to corruption. How might you express the anger, frustration, and pain that you feel? What words would you use to curse an enemy, an opponent, or an organization that did you wrong? Consider this same situation. Now, how might you release or surrender the situation to God? How can you pray that God makes things right? Consider what might feel like a just response to the injustice or pain that you've experienced. Finally, in the midst of this unjust moment and the devastation that you feel, how might you retain the integrity of your personhood or character? In what ways have you crossed a line and perhaps ceased being holy as God is holy? Do you need to repent of that and seek forgiveness or find healing? Well, thanks for listening, my friends. The soccer psalms in the US, the football psalms in the UK, all available on Amazon in a number of different formats. And coming here soon, Los Salmos del Fútbol, una versión del libro en español. Give it a read, write a review. I'd greatly appreciate it if you order a copy today. I look forward to spending time with you again next week. Until then, this is Rev Brad coming to you from the Touchline.